Hey, y'all, welcome to the Road You Leave Behind podcast on outsider.com. I'm your host, Marty Smith, and it's the joy of my life to get to spend this time with you guys. This is the very first episode. This one extremely special for that reason, but for several other reasons. Our guest is Mark Miller, the lead singer of Sawyer Brown, someone that I have admired nearly my entire life for the amazing work that he and his bandmates have offered us for so long. Some of the most iconic, influential, important, emotional songs of what I believe to be the greatest era in country music, the 90s. They had The Walk, they had The Outskirts of Town, they had Some Girls Do, they had Thank God for You, they had Step by Step, The Boys and Me. It goes on and on and on. All these years, they've had so many amazing songs, and Mark's path is equally amazing. I bet you didn't know that he played college basketball. I bet you didn't know Sawyer Brown won Star Search. I bet you didn't know the reasons behind some of those amazing songs. I didn't, and I couldn't wait to learn about it. Here's Mark Miller on The Road You Leave Behind.
Where's the start?
There you go.
Okay,
there
man.
it is. All right.
All right.
What's going on? Thank you, Madison. What's going on, man?
Yeah. Man, I'm in Florida, and I'm heading back to Nashville on Monday. But I grew up down here.
Yep.
So I still have a home down here, and so I come down and surf and work out in the winter. So, because Nashville's just, where are you located?
Lake Norman, Charlotte, North Carolina, a little bit north of
Okay.
Charlotte.
Yeah. So the winters in Nashville are just like ugly. It doesn't snow and just
they're
cold
Charlotte
and rainy. So
it's the same exact weather we have here, almost exactly. So that's so cool, man. And I'm so grateful for your time and to get to spend this time fellowshipping with you and learning about your path. Before we get to the music, let's start with what led to the music. Just in Ohio, what were those kind of formative youth years like for you before you moved to Florida?
Well, I mean, I grew up in church, so in a Pentecostal church, and I played ball. That's really, I really had no aspirations to play music because I was really shy and really still am. But so I really turned to basketball. I became a really good basketball player, and that was my passion. Still is. And you can ask Shannon.
Yeah.
But we would sing in church, and when I was really little, my mom would make me get up and sing, and I hated it because I would get so nervous. So then, when I was 12, we moved to Florida, and still, I'm still solid in my faith to this day. So everything was all about church. But if you've been to a Pentecostal church, we rock it.
Man.
We have horns, guitars, we have everything. If you can play anything, you play it. And that's the way music was growing up. But I will say this, I always felt it. I didn't just sing it. I mean, music, when I would hear, especially, I mean, to this day, man, I'll if I'm riding down the road, I'll turn in some old gospel quartet. I'll find it, somewhere. The guitar's getting ready to fall in the background there.
Oh, it sure is. That's the most Marty Smith thing ever. Let's lean it up.
Yeah.
How about let's just put it down? That'll be a better idea. Let's just put it down. All right, brother, go ahead.
But I would feel the music all the way down to my bones, man. and I still do today. Like, people will ask me, like, when you're on stage, man, it's like, I mean, the crowd is awesome and the fans are awesome. But when I feel music as much as I sing it or play it, and sometimes that comes out. I don't really call it dancing more than my brother calls it spastic movement. So so he keeps me humble.
That's interesting to me that you said that you're still shy. Based on what you're saying, your stage presence is anything but shy. Is
Yeah.
that almost like is your stage presence almost a defense mechanism for that?
Well, I think the one thing is I'll go back to, I'm an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And I always got nervous when I would play ball. I would get nervous when I was on the floor. But there's a concentration level that also happens that takes over. And that's really what happens is you know I will tell you this. I fought it for a long time because I thought I'm just going to be a songwriter, because I didn't think I could get up and sing in front of anybody. Sawyer Brown's the first band I've ever been in. And so there was really that fear of getting up in front of people and them actually seeing, maybe I don't know what I thought they were going to be seeing, but I did not enjoy that thought. If you would have told me in high school that this is what I would be doing for a living, I probably would have just freaked out, you know. But getting back to your question is when I figured out that this is God's path for me, I said, well, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the best there is at it. So I mean, I always loved Elvis and Mick Jagger, and there's got Little Richard and the guys that really performed, Chuck Berry.
Showman.
Chuck Berry,
Legendary showman.
Yeah. And so I would study these guys, and that, along with my Pentecostal upbringing and just feeling the music, is what developed. I mean, if you would have seen, like, when we first put the band together and we got our first club gig, if you would have seen me, I mean, I just stood there like this, man, I was George Strait. I was Alan Jackson, I'm just like, strumming. But then as I started feeling the music, I would start moving, and and the girls would start screaming, and I thought, well, there's something to this.
I need to do this more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A lot of people, you talking about hoops. A lot of people think that Brandon Marshall or Shaq Griffin or Mackenzie Milton might be the greatest athletes in the history of the University of Central Florida, but no, they would be wrong. The great Mark Miller, the great point guard for the UCF Knights. Man, walk me through the hoop career. What was your high school experience like, and then going to UCF to play?
I went to Apopka High School in Apopka, Florida, and John Anderson and I went to the same high school.
No way.
Yeah.
Did y'all go to school to get, like, at the same time?
He was ahead of me several years. John actually met me the first day I was in Nashville and introduced me to a bunch of people and helped me out. Wow. When I first came to town. And Hobie, our keyboard player, is from Apopka. So Hobie and I have known each other since the 8th grade. So, my goal in life was to play basketball and maybe make it to the NBA. I ran out of DNA at some point.
I always say the same thing, Mark. I always say, man, I knew I was going to play quarterback for Frank Beamer at Virginia Tech. And then this damn hurdle called talent. I couldn't jump that hurdle.
Yeah. Well, I was a real good high school player, and but I wanted to go to UCF and play for Torchy Clark. He was a legendary coach, and he started the program there. And my father had died in the service, so I was on a GI Bill. And so when I went to UCF to do a visit, you know, I really didn't need the scholarship. I just wanted to play for him. And man, I made the team, and that was really at one point I was told I was always too small and I would never play college basketball. And I probably did that out of spite more than anything else. I wanted to play college basketball, and I wanted to play at a good program. And man, that's never I've never regretted that. You know, I played at UCF. And then actually afterwards, I kept playing in exhibition games, and I would put teams together. We would put teams together and go play colleges in preseason games, exhibition. It was the Sawyer Brown All-Stars. And I would get guys like Kyle Macy and Damon Bailey and
wow.
you know, these guys to go play. And Shannon would go on the trips with us. Shannon's a really good basketball player. Don't let him know that I said that.
I was going to say, we're going to have to edit that part out for those of you listening. Those of you watching and listening who don't know, Shannon Terry is the individual whom Mark is discussing, who is the founder of Outsider.com.
Yeah.
And we can't let him know that he's good, Mark. We can't let him know.
And then I actually signed with the CBA team, the Fort Wayne Fury, for a couple of seasons. And that was actually while we are already touring. I had gone up with a buddy wanted me to go up to a tryout. His name was John Kimball. He was a 7-foot center, and he wanted me to go up to the tryout with him to get him the ball, because, you know, in those open tryouts, it's almost impossible. So my goal, I just went up with him, and I ended up making the team along with him. And we already had hit songs out. And the owner of the team came up, and this was the old CBA and the Continental Basketball Association. And he came up to me and he said, "Listen, I know who you are, but our coach doesn't, and he loves you." And he said, "Is there any way that you could play?" He said, "We would treat you like a transient NBA player. If you could come to camp." And he told me the dates. And so I said, "Yeah, I can come to camp." He said, "Come to camp, learn the offense, and then you can just, come in when you can come." Because Damon Bailey was on the team. Keith Smart was on the team. So it was loaded with Indiana boys that were great.
Who's your all-star team right there, man?
Yeah. So I did that for a couple seasons and played in exhibition games and stuff like that with them. And so basketball is, I always say I'm a better basketball player than I am anything else. But that's always been my passion and my love, and still to this day.
What conversations did you have with Damon Bailey about high school? Like, again, for those of you guys watching and listening who don't know, Damon Bailey might be the most famous high school basketball player who ever breathed.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'll tell you a story, because you would know who Eric Montross is, of course.
Of course.
Okay. So Eric's a really close friend of mine. Eric and Damon, of course, grew up in Indiana, and they actually played on AAU teams together. Can you imagine that? An AAU team with Damon and Eric? I don't think
that's not fair.
Lost the game. So one day I was sitting around because Damon won Mr. Basketball and Eric was runner-up. And I said to Eric, I said, now tell me, should Damon have got Mr. Basketball? And he said, "Oh, absolutely." He said, "Mark, he's the best high school basketball player of all time." He goes, I was runner up, and he says, "Really, I wasn't even close, and I shouldn't have been close." And that's how much credit he gave to Damon as a high school basketball player. But now I will tell you this. I played with everybody. I played with John Stockton, Karl Malone. I've played games with with every kind of pro there is, the best basketball player to the bone that I've ever played with is Damon Bailey.
What? Well, so that's a hell of a statement. So why does a guy like that not make it in the league?
Man, I think there are just all kinds of things. When Damon came out of college, he should have got his knee fixed. He had to get some stuff done on his knee, and Bobby Knight kept asking him to put it off. So he did. So when he graduated, he had to go in and have his knee scoped, and he gained like 15, 20 pounds. So he shows up to camp and he's overweight. So he goes to the CBA, and it was just one of those things. I guess the stars just didn't line up. But I'm telling you right now, he's the best basketball player I've ever played with. I would go on barnstorming tours with him. And in Indiana, my man is Elvis.
Oh yeah, for
my
sure.
Man is Elvis Presley.
So you're balling in the CBA, and you got hit songs on the radio. How did you balance? I know you could show up when you wanted, but
I wasn't able to play up there much. I played in a few games.
Okay.
But they loved it when I showed up because I brought my tour buses. So
they had a place to chill.
Yeah. No, we traveled on the tour buses.
Oh my gosh, that's fabulous. So y'all's the Sawyer Brown story is so interesting to me. Start as a band, right? For Don King and whatnot. What were those years like in the early 80s?
Well, see, Don King was an artist on CBS Records, not the fight promoter.
Right. Not the hair. Right.
He was on CBS Records, and I was the roadie for the band. I set up all the band equipment, and I wrote for his publishing company. And so all the guys in Sawyer Brown were in that band. But I was, just, tuning their guitars, setting their drums up and driving the equipment van. And then he lost his deal. And when he lost his deal, the guys came to me and said, hey, why don't you, we need to make some money. Why don't you be our lead singer? And I said, guys, man, I still haven't settled in my head that that's if I can do it. So they were playing at a club down on Murfreesboro Road. They had a Monday night gig. So they asked me to come down and watch him. So I went down. So after the couple sets, they asked me to get up and sing a song with them. So I'm sitting there looking around. So the crowd's not paying one attention to them. Right? So
background noise, right?
Yeah. So I started thinking, well, I could maybe get up and sing, and maybe it would just, help me a little bit overcome some of my, my stuff. And so I said, okay, I'll get up. And so we'll do, they said, what do you want to do? I said, Lion Eyes by the Eagles. So we get up, we start, they do the intro. Well, the minute I start singing, the whole place stops. I'm not kidding. Stops and turns around to the stage. Now, not only am I freaking out, think about this. I have picked the longest song in the history of popular music. Lion Eyes is 6 minutes and 29 seconds long. So I'm going, oh my God, it was like an eternity.
You're looking for that time and a half button, aren't you?
Yeah.
Let me hit the time and a half button.
Yeah.
What did that tell you though? When everybody turns and goes,
tell me
what is this?
It told them, they go, okay, dude, you're our guy.
Yep.
So I still wasn't convinced, but man, we all needed to make money. I had just, when Don King had lost his deal, he let everybody go. And then Charlie Pride signed me immediately after that as a staff writer for his publishing company. So I had that going, but that still wasn't, I think it was $100 a week. You know, you're talking 1982, 81. So there was a club that was opening in town, and they were doing auditions for house bands. So the guys came and said, man, we got to make some money. We got to pay our apartment rent. So I said, okay, I'll do it. So we rehearsed. Now you have to understand, I've never been in a band, so I don't know songs. You know, I know songs, sing along, just like you or anybody else along with the radio, but like know all the words to all the songs. So I've got a music stand, I've got the lyrics, because you know I can't memorize that many songs for this audition. So we rehearsed the night before, but also this was a real big club opening, so there was a ton of bands auditioning, and you're in Nashville, Tennessee, which I'm telling you, to this day, it's the deal. I mean, there are guys walking the street right now that I can't even carry their suitcase. They're so good, that will never make it, sadly enough to say. So we're in Nashville, Tennessee. So there were tons of bands. So we go to this audition. They audition bands all day. We get the deal. So now we're the house band, and now I've got to like start learning all these songs. So I've got a music stand, I've got my guitar, you know, and I'm you know, I'm playing guitar and I'm singing, and it was pretty cool because you know God never gives you more than you can handle.
That's right.
And so the whole time that I'm walking through this, it's like it felt like, almost looking back on it, like baby steps to get me to the point of being not comfortable, but more comfortable. I'm still not totally comfortable, you know.
What?
But so that, you know, that was the beginning, but we became really popular quick in Nashville. And then clubs from all over the South heard about us. So we started traveling, doing sit down gigs, Jackson, Mississippi, Daytona Beach, Virginia. You know, we played a club in Charlotte. You know, we were just, then we started being really popular. But we were doing 6 sets a night, and, you know, 6 days a week. And then we would travel. And, but the funny thing is Nashville still wouldn't accept us because we were just too, in their description, we were too wild and too rock and roll to get a deal. And even leading up to Star Search, we had pretty much exhausted every avenue. We saved our money, made a demo tape. We had done showcase after showcase in town, and we just couldn't get any traction at all, because of the fact that, you know, we dressed like the Rolling Stones, and we acted like the Rolling Stones.
Nashville wasn't ready for that yet.
They were not, you know, and I get it, but I also knew that you know, Alabama had just come on the scene. I knew that, you know, we weren't Alabama and couldn't be Alabama, and because there was already an Alabama. So I was just going to be, you know, I mean, I grew up in Florida. I grew up on the Beach Boys, Creedence, you know, 60s and 70s, you know, Elton John, Billy Joel. But my mom listened to country music. That's in the car. That's all we were allowed to listen to, that or gospel music. So that was, that was the hybrid, that was the influence that came from both directions, was this country music. But, you know, all I'd ever listened to on the radio was rock and roll, Bob Seger, you know, that, you know, so that was, I loved that. So when I would write, there would be this you know, this hobby. Step That Step was our first #1 record. And man, I couldn't even let the publishing company, they wouldn't even let me demo it because they thought it was so bad. They just, you know, so that's where Nashville was at the time, and that's how we were looked at the time, you know.
So that's 1985, I think.
That was 1983
Oh,
because
1983. Okay.
yeah, because Star Search came along in the fall of '83, but it didn't air until it was a delay. It didn't air till like either the end of the year or the beginning of '84.
How did that? So those of you who may not know what Star Search is, unless you're 35 or older, you may have no idea. It was a talent show hosted by Ed McMahon, and it was wildly popular when I was a kid.
Well, we
And
tease everybody and say we were the original American Idols, you know.
right, exactly. It was like American Idol back in the day.
Yeah.
How did that opportunity come to be, and what was that experience like for you guys?
So we didn't. There was a club in California that was a really popular club that was interested in us, but they wouldn't hire us unless they could see us in a videotape. They'd heard about us, so they wanted us to make a videotape. So we were being booked by Buddy Lee Attractions, but we were actually being booked by 2 interns at Buddy Lee Attractions.
Wow.
So because we were just a club band.
High on the pecking order there, huh?
Yeah. So Rick Shipp, who was one of the interns, who later on went on to be a really big agent for William Morris. Rick called and said, "Hey, there's an outfit coming to town, and they'll videotape you guys, and they'll let you have the videotape to send out to California." I said, "Great." He said, "Be at this studio, you know, tomorrow." You know, I remember it being on a Friday. So we went over to the studio, and outside it had Star Search auditions. So we go in. So the guy's telling me about the show. Now the show had not aired yet, so it was the first season. So it was like we didn't know anything about the show. So as he's telling me, all I'm wanting in my mind is, are we going to be able to get this videotape to send out to California? So he said, "You guys are going to do 2 songs." He says, "We're going to videotape it." And I immediately stopped him and said, "And we're going to be able to get that videotape." He said, "Yeah," but he said, "Now we got to send it to New York over the weekend." And he said they want to see everything that we're taping down here. And he said, "This is Star Search is a TV show." He said, "It's 26 episodes." He says, "We booked 20 episodes. We're looking for the last 4 or 5 episodes." He said, we have recorded 4 shows already, but he said we've already got everybody booked up into those last 4 shows. This means nothing to me, right?
You just want the tape, bro.
I just want the tape. I said, "Okay, that's great. That's great." So we did 2 songs. I think we did "Smoking in the Rockies," which was we also did on actually on the show, and I think we did "Leona," which was our first single.
Yep.
So we did it. We finished. So I get a call on Monday, thinking we're getting the videotape. Now this was back before cell phones, and so I get a call from Rick Shipp, and Rick said, "Hey, the Star Search people are going to call you." He says they wouldn't tell me what's going on because I'm officially not your agent. So he said he said, "Sit by the phone. They're going to call you in the next 10 minutes. So I'm in my apartment and I'm sitting there. So the guy calls and he says, "Hey, here's the deal." He says, "You guys made the show, but," he said, "this is what I'm up against." He says, they have moved you in front of everyone. They want you on the next show, which was show number 6. And he said, I said, "Okay, what does that look like?" He said, that we want you guys on an airplane tomorrow morning flying to LA.
Wow.
I said, man, I said, I got to be real honest with you. I said, man, we don't have the kind of money to fly out there. And he goes, oh, we're going to fly you. I said, okay. I said, we've never been to LA. I said, man, I just got to be straight up with you. I said, we don't have money for hotel rooms, for food, anything. He goes, he says to me, buddy, my job is to get you to LA.
Get whatever it takes.
He said, you don't have to worry about a thing. Everything will be taken care of. You just need to tell me that you and the boys will be on the plane tomorrow morning. And he said, here's the flight number. And he said, we bought the tickets. We're gonna fax you the vouchers, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. So now you have to understand, now I've got to go find the guys because it's Monday. That's usually our only day off. And we're usually traveling Monday night somewhere to Corinth, Mississippi or somewhere to do a show. And so I had to call Rick Ship back and he said, well, I'll cancel this week. And he said, you guys need to go. So I had to literally drive all over town to find the guys because we didn't have cell phones. You know, one guy was at the doctor and one guy was here, one guy was at the dry cleaners. So I had to go find the guys and say, guys, we're going to LA tomorrow.
Which what was there? 6 of you?
5 of us.
5 of you. Okay.
Yeah.
You got to find 4 guys.
Yeah. So it was literally, I remember it was like you see on TV where all of a sudden, boom, the thing changes and you're on the airplane and we're on the airplane. And in my head, the theme to the Beverly Hillbillies is playing in my head as we're on the plane, right? So we land and there's a guy that has Sawyer Brown with a limo there to pick us up. And we are freaking out, man. So we're going up Sunset Boulevard and we get to the Hyatt Hotel and we know from Led Zeppelin, this is the place, the Rock and Riot Hyatt. And that's where we're staying. Now we're doubly freaking out. So we get there and the guy comes up and briefs us and he says, you guys, we want you guys to just relax. He says, tomorrow morning, we're going to go for a blocking rehearsal. We don't know what blocking means. So, and he said, and then we'll do a blocking rehearsal. And then that was a Tuesday. The blocking rehearsals on Wednesday, he says, and we're taping on Thursday. So we get there the next morning and and we're watching all the other acts and the director is coming over making notes, talking to him, and everybody did whatever they were doing, they did at one time. So it comes our time. So we do our song. And he said, hey guys, would you take a couple minutes and I want you to come back and do it again. So we're the only one that he asked to do that. So I'm like thinking they don't like us. So I go over to him on the break and I said, hey, listen, man, I said, we've come a long way. I said, I've got 100 songs. If you don't like that song, we'll play a song. I said, at this point, man, we came all this way. Just let us be on the show. And he looked at me and he said, no, he says, I want you to do exactly that same song and do exactly what you just did. He said, I just need some people to see this. So they bring 3 people in suits. It was a lady and 2 men, and they were all dressed up. And they just stood there and we did our song. Now, this is how stupid you feel. You're in a dance thing with all the mirrors and you're sitting there mimicking what you're going to do. And you're just doing it to a cassette tape. So you feel even double stupid, right? So they just looked at us. They looked at each other kind of nodded, and they turned and walked off. So the next day is the taping of the show. So man, I'm so nervous because I mean I still haven't really, it hasn't clicked in my head, that I'm doing this. And I'm literally in the bathroom throwing up, and I'm like going, Lord, I don't know if I can do this. And man, so we go out and we hit the stage and we play. We win. And we're like sitting there going, everybody's like going crazy and stuff. So we go back to the dressing room and we win, and we're sitting in there, and everybody's just, we kind of really don't know what to do because we really don't know anything about the show. So our runner, who was the guy that I talked to on the phone the first time, he comes in and he's excited. He's like, man, he says, okay, he says, we're taping another taping on Saturday, and he said we need another song. So we're just kind of looking around and at each other, and he goes, "What's wrong?" I said, "Man," I said,
"We don't have another song."
I said, "We don't have any clothes."
Oh yeah.
And I said, "We thought we were just coming out to do this show," and I said, "And they want you to pre-record the song." Now I sang live, but we recorded the music. And I said, "We only brought one song." He said, okay. And then he gets real nervous. He goes, "Okay." So he goes out and he comes back and he's got 5 vouchers. He says, "We got you guys booked on a red eye to go home." He said, "We're going to send you home." And because I told him I could get in the studio the next day. So he said, "I want you to go home." And he pulled me aside and he says, "They told me to tell you to bring back a lot of clothes."
What?
I said, "Okay."
You're gonna be here a while.
Yeah. So we kept winning, and we were actually out there for 6.5 months. We kept winning every week, and we ended up winning the whole show for the whole season. And that put us in front of so many people that, that's when all of a sudden Nashville started to notice us.
From there, it was a rocket ship. After Star Search, it was a rocket ship. And you get into the early 90s, and it is hit after hit after hit after hit. And I want to get to those songs in just a minute. But I did want to back up to something you said earlier, that Charlie Pride signed you to his publishing company.
Right.
Mr. Pride just passed.
Yeah.
And just iconic, transcendent, pioneer. None of these words do him justice.
Yeah.
As someone who knew him personally, Mark, who was he, and what was that influence?
Charlie was such a good human being and a good guy. He would have never known everything you just said about him. Charlie just thought he sang songs, and his wife Rosine, she was real influential in handling a lot of the business, and she knew. But Charlie himself just carried himself just like an everyday good guy, and he was. He just happened to be, in his mind, he just happened to be able to sing these songs. He loved country music, but he was just a good guy. It was an honor. I always loved telling people that Charlie Pride signed me as a songwriter. He and Rosine saw something in me, and to this day, my mom passed away, summer before last, but he would always go up and make a big deal. He would make a big deal to my mom. and that's the kind of guy he was. He just was. He was a good human being, and it was just an honor to get to write for him and be in his family. And like I said, man, I could just go on about the man, but he was iconic. He did everything that you just said about him. He was he was just he was iconic, but he didn't know that about himself.
No airs.
Humble human being.
Yeah, I love to see the emotion. I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Yeah.
One more thing before we get to the music. I'm 44 years old, Mark, and I lost my mom when I was 21, and I lost my dad when I was 31. And yet every single day I am working to try to make them proud. That's all I want to do. I want to do something every day that enables me and my soul to feel like, man, my parents would love that. Like my mother, just so you know, you were talking about your mom having country music in the home and in the car. That's exactly the life I lived. I grew up in Appalachia, and my mom had the Judds and Reba and Alabama and all of those, Waylon and Willie and those guys on an 8-track player. And we had a turntable too. She would be tickled all over herself that I get to talk to you. She loved you guys, loved you guys. And to see the emotion that you just had in discussing Mr. Pride and discussing the fact that he paid mine to your talent with your parents leads me to assume that you're probably similar, that you lost your dad a long time ago and just recently lost your mom, but I imagine that's you're still working to make them proud.
Yeah, my mom was, my dad died in the Korean War, so my mom was 21 years old with me and my brother only
Man,
11 months apart. So she had 2 infants, and my mom rocked it, man. She did. She raised us, and man, the really cool thing, my mom ran our fan club for for many years.
fantastic.
So she got to be a part of it. And when she passed away, we had a funeral, and then the fan club had a funeral for her. And it was and it was just real. That's just how big of a part of this and how proud she was. And I have one brother who manages Sawyer Brown. He's my manager, and so he's been a part of all this. And everything that we do, he and I do together, my brother and I do everything together as far as work and play. But we do everything just like you do to make her proud, and she was. And like I say, for her to get to be a part of that was really cool as well.
It's the ultimate endorsement, man. It's the one of the things that really stands out to me, and I've said this before, and I wrote it in my book, is my mother was the most I love you mom ever. I mean, I knew. She told me, she hugged me, she kissed me, she loved me, she nurtured me in church Wednesday night, in church Sunday morning. She was the choir director, played piano, played organ, played acoustic, the whole thing. My dad was a tough nugget now. He was not an I love you guy, but I knew it. He wasn't like an I'm proud of you, Dad, but he didn't tell me, but he told everybody else.
Yeah.
And they told me. And so anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent, but that amazing emotion made me think of it. Again, I want to dive into these songs because they mean so much to me, but I have one more question before we get to the actual songs. I am of the mind that, so the 90s country was the soundtrack of my youth.
Right.
Okay. It's my favorite era. I listen to it every day, on and on. What do you believe the impact of that era was on the format overall in its history?
Well, I believe is the question what the impact was or why?
Oh, I will take both.
Okay.
Those are
Well,
two very dynamic questions.
yeah. So the what the impact was was this. It was a wave. I always say it was a wave, and you know there's Garth Brooks and Shania, you know, really kind of what I would say is they started that wave, and then the rest of us were able just to jump on, man, and make that wave bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was so cool of a time for us because I mean, you know, country music was always kind of like the stepchild of the genres. And then all of a sudden, the 90s, we're the number one music form in the world.
Yeah.
And we're all selling out arenas. And and it was just it just felt like a huge wave that picked everybody up and just we went and we all went together. Everybody was affected by it. We sold a lot of records. We filled arenas. All of us did. Um, but also what we did, and the reason that I can still do 100 cities a year to this day, other than last year, of course, is because of that wave and the impact that it had. And it brought so many people and now I'll get to the why I think that was there was diversity in that, but within that diversity there was still this common core of there's these messages in the song that really resonated with this massive audience. So you have Sawyer Brown, the country rock guys. You've got Randy Travis, you know, the traditional guy. You've got Alabama somewhere in between. You've got Garth Brooks, who is this, you know, cowboy rock star. You've got Shania Twain, this beautiful, her and Mutt Lange were making this music, and they would do three different mixes. They'd do a country mix, a pop mix, and a European mix, and an Asian mix. But if you look at exactly what it was these songs that resonated, and I just think that the 90s were really good economically for everyone, and I think we celebrated that with our music, and I think that has lingered on. That, you know, people say, hey, the 90s are hot. Well, the 90s haven't not stopped being hot for us. But I just think there was a lot of diversity, but there was the message in the music was, I will say this, I never really worried too much about the production. If we had a great song, I mean, I always say this about a great song: anybody could sing it and anybody could produce it. A great song is a great song. And that's how, when I came to Nashville as a songwriter writing for Charlie Pride, we learned how to craft a song. That was, you know, you had talent, but you also, it's just like if you can throw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, you have to have a curveball and a changeup and a slider, you know, or otherwise you're just, you know, you're just a pitcher. So as a songwriter, we had to learn how to craft a great song. And sometimes I feel like productions overshadow, like, you know, and listen, I will never say anything about today's music or what, because I think there's a lot of good out there, but I still believe that the core of anything impactful musically is a great song, a great lyric.
I completely agree. And I was going to, you made my point for me when you said that, you know, a lot of you guys got on the wave and whatnot. And it was because of that wave. It goes back to the songs,
Yeah,
because Mark, there were a lot of people who rode that wave and they're not riding it now.
right.
The ones that had the great songs are still riding it.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
intrigues me that you talking about 100 shows a year. What impact did the pandemic have on you guys, and obviously your touring schedule, but what comes with that financial impact and the uncertainty?
Well, up until the pandemic started, and that was for us. I mean, we did our last show, I think, March the 3rd, and you know, we at that point we had to do it contractually. We didn't know what to do because it had already started, but we canceled an 80 city tour.
Gosh.
So, so, and up to that point in the 38 years that we've been together, we probably had never gone more than 2 weeks without doing a show. So for us, it was it was pretty tough. Just at, but listen, we're like everybody else as the uncertainties of what you know what's going on. But really, the impact with live music was like anything else that was live. It was like the ball, you know, the NFL or you know, the NBA or whatever. The good news for them is that you know they've been able to figure it out. Um, you know, with live music, you know, we've all done, you know, things with Zoom and on YouTube and stuff like that. But, you know, we just looked at it as, you know, just something to suffice until we can get back out there. Cause you know,
Sure.
we've already got about 70 cities on the books right now. If they'll turn us loose, soon as they, you know, they turn us loose, we're going. So
I can't wait until that day. I
yeah,
cannot wait to have my arms around. There's nothing. It was a huge void for my wife and me this summer. We go to country music shows.
yeah,
That's like what we do. You know, I get paid for sports.
yeah,
My release is country music shows, and not having that was a noticeable void for us.
yeah,
And I know it is for you guys. That energy exchange you have with your fans is everything.
right.
It's everything. It's the what you do it for. It's the validation for why you do it, and it's the juice. So I certainly hope that you guys are back on stage in front of thousands of people again soon. Um,
Well, here's the thing that I do know and that I've felt is live music is not going away, no matter what. People will figure it.
mm-mm,
We will figure it out, and live
absolutely.
music is not going away. And that's what I can rest pretty easy in, just knowing that, just knowing the reaction that we have felt from the fans, you know, since we haven't been able to be out there and tour.
The first one back is going to be magic. I
Yeah,
mean, it's going to be
yeah,
magic. Um,
yeah.
let's jump into a couple of the songs that you'll sing when you do get back, and it just like blows my mind. I listen to you guys all the time anyway. And again, I told you about my dad and losing my dad, and let's just start with the walk. What was your motivation behind writing that song, and what is the reaction when you see people consume it for the first time?
Well, the motivation, my grandfather, and you know, not having a dad, my grandfather became my father figure. And no one was more proud than when we started having hit records. I mean, he had to have his own tour jacket. He had,
That's awesome.
You know, any place that we went, he knew he could go, and his health, deteriorated, and I was losing it. And that song came out of that experience. But not only along with that was I was, just getting ready to have, my first child. So it was really probably the first song that I had written that was just truly that I had experienced all of it, every verse of that. And so I had really made up my mind that song was never going to be a single, because now you have to understand it, in the 80s, we were on a bit of a roller coaster, because we'd have a hit song, and then radio still wanted to push back on us because we still would push the envelope a little too much. So we kind of did this a little bit, but the songs that we did have were huge. The Race Is On, Step That Step. Yeah. These songs were, it was something kind of undeniable. But then we would release something else, and radio wouldn't play it. So when we got to The Walk, it was the first time that I think that I had written something that was so personal to me that I wasn't. And I told my brother, and I told TK Kimbrell, who was also managing us, a really close friend. I said, guys, I'm going to put this on. When I played it for him, I said, I'm not even going to put it on an album. I just wanted you guys to hear it. And they just looked at each other and said, man, you got to put that on an album. And I said, you got to let people hear it. I said, I will put it on the album, but it will never be a single. So, and the reason was, I was probably so upset with radio at the time that I wasn't going to give them a chance to tell me my song wasn't good. Because I would have gone all redneck up on somebody.
Yeah, I love that. I love that perspective.
So we record the song and we put it on the album. And so it was on, this is funny. The song was on the Buick album.
Yep.
So we're recording the next album, and we didn't release it. So my brother and TK come in and say, man, we're getting such a huge response on The Walk. You got to think about it. I said, well, the album's done. We're doing a new album. They said, let's put this one also on the next album. And I said, well, can we do that? And they said, well, you can do anything you want. So we did that. But they talked me into letting it be a single. And I said, okay. And the response, we went up to LA, we did the video. We spent a lot of our own money, because I was just bound and determined that I was not going to let this song, if we were going to do it, then it was going to have to be Desert Storm. We were going to have to come in and we were going to have to just blitz. And so we spent, I think we spent probably, in all honesty, $400,000 or $500,000.
Wow.
We spent that much money of our own money, just making sure, and it was a big payoff. It was, no one had ever seen us in that, because we were the fun rock guys, and so no one had ever seen that side of us. So it had a huge impact and became one of our biggest songs, and still is. Now the second part of your question, from stage, man, there are times that I'm getting choked up about it, because I can see this in my mind. The dads that will stand up with their sons
Yeah, man.
at the show. Now I'm up there, and, and we're trying to play this song, you know, and they'll just stand up, and they got their arm around their dad, and they brought him to the show, and they said, "This is the reason. You're the only band that me and my dad likes together.
Yeah.
And this is because of this." And you go, man, I get it, because I have a son now, you know, and my son's 25 now. And I watched all those phases of the song, you know, go through. So sometimes when I sing it and I think about him and my daughter, I'm like, you know, so it has and continues to be a very impactful and emotional song for me. But, you know, one of the coolest things I saw was 4 generations. I saw a great granddad, a granddad, a dad, and he was holding his infant son.
Wow.
And when you see that, you just thank God that I got to be a part of that song. I don't even think of it as I wrote it, as much as I got to have a front row seat to this song.
Beautiful, man. You know, one reason I love it so much is because, and I listen to it at minimum every other day. And I consider this to be somewhat odd, but I know I'm not alone, so it's not that odd. I listen to it because it makes me sad viscerally, and that thereby makes me feel closer to my dad.
Yeah.
Like he's with me right then, even though he's not. And that to me is the beauty of the song, and that's why I listen to it so often.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for that song. It's just beautiful. And y'all, if you don't know it, you better go find it right now. I also want to hit on, you know, one of the things that I love about you guys, and I love about your writing, and I love about Mac McAnally's writing, whom I know has been integral in y'all's career as well, is championing blue collar America.
Right.
So much of what you guys do does that, whether it's something like The Boys and Me, which is that up, but it's still The Boys and Me. It's still that, hey man, we're working 40 hours a week and we want to go get a sixer on Friday. But the outskirts of town, that's where I grew up. I know that character very well. That's my buddies that I grew up with who still live in Parisburg and Newport in Appalachia, where I grew up. That's them. And there's this line, and the first line of that song, I just love it so much, the Elizabeth Taylor line, because there's this old drive-in screen where Elizabeth Taylor was queen, and like everybody else, she quit coming around.
Yeah.
There's so much more depth there than the words are telling. It's like, we're so far out here and we're so forgotten, the movies don't even come around no more.
Yeah.
I love that, bro. And I sing it. If I could carry a half a tune in the bucket, I sing it so loud and so off key. It's ridiculous. But like, walk me through that and what it's like to what that song, the impact of that song.
Well, you know, the funny thing is you hit on that song and talk about that song, and you know, it wasn't a hit. That's what the funny thing about that is. We get so much, you know, just, you know, fans telling us how impactful that song was. That song wasn't even a hit. But when we write them, we don't write them to be hits. We just write them.
Yep.
You know, and Hobie and I wrote that song because we're both from the little town of Popka, Florida. I always used to say I grew up so far out in the country we had to go towards town to hunt. You know,
that's great.
And that's outskirts of town. You know, but everything in outskirts of town, just like you just described. My buddies Hathaway and Tom Morelli, you know, and Aaron Sutton and Bobo, all my guys. That was it, you know, and so there are songs that you write, and then there's that happen in 30 minutes. Then there are songs that you write that you couldn't have written them unless you lived it. And then I remember that one we probably labored over as far as writing it, making sure that every single line, and this is what I'll tell you, going back to Charlie Pride and learning to craft a song. Blake Meebus ran the company. Blake produced, and he discovered George Strait and Keith Whitley. So Blake,
not a bad resume.
Yeah, so he knew his stuff. But Blake would not let us take a line off in a song just because it rhymed. Everything had to mean something, and everything. And also in writing with Mac McAnally and Mac being involved. Mac, one time we were getting ready to work on even talking about the next album, whatever that was. And Mac said, "Man, you just figure out what you want to say and we'll make a record about it." You know? And that's what we did. That's
so cool.
That's how we made records. We went to Muscle Shoals, and you know, that's where I really could get away. And you know, Mac lived in Muscle Shoals, and we would just go down there, and it's so raw, and you can write a song like Outskirts of Town, you know, and you're not sitting down on Music Row. Nothing wrong with Music Row, but there's also nothing wrong with getting away from Music Row. And that's what we would do at times. But Outskirts of Town, you know, that was true. It was a labor of love, but we just like you said, every line in that song, we lived it, and it meant something to us.
I mean, it's so brilliantly done. I say all the time, Mark, all the time, that I feel like there are a select few professions and gifts that save lives. Physicians save lives, EMTs save lives, researchers save lives, songwriters save lives. I know it because I lived it. And I would give anything to have that skill, to be able to tell that kind of song in whatever it was, 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever it is, because it is everything that I lived growing up. The prettiest girl. Like, I mean, you know, like, I love that. It's so true. The prettiest girl that I've ever seen lives up the road just a piece. I can't. I know I'm total fanboy.com right now, bro, but I just love it. I love it. And I can't believe, I think I've kept you way too long already here. So let me just get into.
I'm fine, man. I'm in Florida. I'm going to go surfing after a while, or go, you know, work out. So
me too. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Two more. I want to hit on two more songs, and for unique reasons. One, so I think, you know, we always hear all the time that He Stopped Loving Her Today is the saddest country song of all time. I disagree. All these years is the saddest country song I've ever heard in my life. It's just gutting. It's gutting. What happened? I know Mac wrote that song. Thing just.
Okay, so the interesting thing about that song, so I was TK and I, and TK Kimbrell, he manages Toby Keith as well, and TK started out managing us, and he managed Mac as well. And so TK and I were driving down to Muscle Shoals, and I said, what's Mac been up to? And he just looks at me, and he's got a cassette there, and he said, let me play you what Mac's been up to. And he played me all these years.
Did you just bawl, dude? Like, you must have just been shocked. I
said,
can't even.
What in the world? I said, okay. He said, that's going to be on his album. I said, oh, man. I said, I'll cut it. He said, nah. He said, he's going to put it on his album. I said, okay. So Mac put that on his album. Now, Mac will tell you, he doesn't make albums Mac was signed by David Geffen, and Geffen just worshiped Mac and didn't care if he had a hit or not. He just wanted to hear what would come out of him, So I knew it wasn't going to get any traction or be a single, because that's not what Mac does. Mac's, an obscure, iconic writer and artist. So it came out, and so we're getting ready to do the album, and Mac and I are working on the new album coming up. And so I said to Mac, no, I tell you how it went. I had already had it in my mind I was going to cut the song. I just didn't know how I was going to get Mac to approve it.
Convince Mac that you were going to cut the song. Yeah.
So I'm watching the Boston Celtics, huge Celtics Larry Bird fan. So I'm watching that. So I know Mac's watching because he is too. So I call Mac at halftime. I talked about the game a little bit, and I said, hey, I'm going to cut all these years. He said, I don't think you should. And I said, well, think about it. I'll call you after the game. Think about it. I said, I'm going to cut it. So I called him back after the game. He said, man, I know you, and I know you're going to plan on this being a single, aren't you? I said, yes, I am. He goes, Mark, they ain't going to play it. He said, it's too slow. He said, you're on a tear right now, man. He said, I don't want to be the one to take you down. I said, Mac, I'm cutting it. And he said, well, how are you going to cut it? I said, it's just going to be a guitar and me, and we'll put some strings on it. He said, Mark, they're not going to play it. They will not play it. I said, Mac, you're just going to have to trust me on this. So we went in and we cut it that way. Now, interestingly enough, we were on a tear. We were just having hit after hit after hit. But interestingly enough, the song started out really slow. I mean, we spent 4 weeks in the 40s. We went like 49, 46, 44, 42. And the label's kind of getting a little bit nervous. And I said, man, you just got to hang in there with it. Well, what happens, and you know this, when you hear the song, you have to hear the whole thing.
No question.
You can't just hear a part of it. Well, when they test a record, they'll only test like this much of it.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't test well because you have to hear the whole thing. But what happened was it started going from light rotation to medium rotation. Well, medium rotation, then you're picking it up. And man, I remember it took forever to get it to number 11. Now, this was back when if you didn't have a song in the top 10 by 10 weeks, you weren't going. You had to get it up there, and it had to go in fast. So all these years got to 11. With 11, it went into heavy rotation everywhere. It went into number 1 like a rocket because you had to hear the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the impact. And still to this day, it's like the walk. We have to split the walk and all these years up in the show because it disrupts. It just disrupts the whole show.
I mean, it's just so well done. The way that the song, the psychology of the song is just the depth, and she's like laying there
and
in
the
that
guy's
moment.
taking the blame.
Yes, the guy's taking the blame, and she's saying, "Wow, I finally realized what I have to lose." And this guy, I've gone to work, and I've come home again. I gave you your supper and your daughter and your son. It just is like this punch after punch after punch.
Yeah.
And if you love sad country songs,
don't rub it in that I've been wrong.
Oh God, I know, man, that line. Oh, he turned the light on and turned it back off again. Oh my God. Like, it's just like, so Sam, my producer, is a little younger than you and me. Not a hardcore country guy. I know him. We've gone around the globe together. We've gone to Rome and Paris with Jim Harbaugh. We've gone to Iceland. We've gone to Mexico. We've gone everywhere together. He's writing these songs. He's writing these titles down right now for sure to go check them out. But one more that we'll hit on one more, and then again, no pressure. But if you have a guitar there and you wanted to sing Outskirts of Town, by God, I'd let you. No pressure at all. You can say no. I was intrigued to learn, and I did not know this about you previously, about the Nebraska song.
Yeah.
And about the inspiration for that song, and about your relationship with that inspiration. Yeah. Share that with us.
Well, the Nebraska song, first of all, we were the biggest Sawyer Brown fan on the planet was Brooke Behringer. Brooke was a quarterback for Nebraska, and he died in a plane crash right after his senior year. Now, I'll tell you the way the song came about is Brooke would, like every summer when he was off, he would come out and climb on the bus and go with us. So we became big Nebraska fans as well. We were, and Brooke had this personality that was just one of the most charismatic guys I've ever seen in my life. And 6'5", just a handsome, just Hollywood could not script this. I remember when I first met him, he was in a meet and greet line, and we were somewhere in Kansas, and he's in a meet and greet, and I kept looking down, seeing this guy that was this big guy, and he looked like a Hollywood movie star. So I get down and I said, "Well, hey, big fella," I said, "Tell me, what's your story?" He says, "I'm a football player for Nebraska." He goes, "I play quarterback." And I looked at him. This was when he was a freshman. I looked at him. I said, "Well, but of course you are." They wouldn't let you play any other position, pal. You're the
looking like that. Yeah.
So we became really good friends with him. So they win their back-to-back national championships, and he and Tommy Frazier would sub in and out. And so they win it back-to-back. So he calls me, and he says, "Hey, they're going to do a huge celebration, a ring ceremony. There's going to be 60,000 people in the stadium." He said, "I've talked Coach Osborne and the athletic staff into hiring you guys to, after we do the ring ceremony, to come in and do a surprise concert." So sure enough, we get a call from the athletic department, everything. So that's what we're going to do. They're going to do the ring ceremony, and then they're going to give out the rings, and then they're going to introduce us a surprise. And then Brooke was going to come back on stage and sing "Some Girls Do" with us at the end of the show. So it's all set. So Brooke says to me, he says, "Man, you got to write a song for the event." And I said, "Brooke, man," and this was when we were just hooking it. I said, "Man, I don't have time." I just don't have time. He said, no, you got to write a song, man. You can't just, this is a big deal to us, and you can't just, you know. So finally, I sit down and a song comes out. It's the Nebraska song. So Brooke calls me and he says, hey, he says, tomorrow I'm going to pick you guys up. He goes, no one knows you're coming in. I'm going to pick you up at the airport. He says, everything's all set up. And we were sending our trucks and our buses out with all of our gear and everything. And this was in the morning. And he said, did you write the song? I said, yeah, I wrote the song. He says, sing it for me over the phone. I said, Brooke, I'm not singing you the song over the phone. I said, it's two guys and I'm not singing you the song. He goes, I'm not going to hang up until you sing me the song. I said, Brooke, he said, I'm not hanging up. So I went and got my guitar and I sang him the Nebraska song. He just said, oh my gosh. So he says to me, he says, listen, I'm going to go practice flying because that's what he wanted to do. After football, he wanted to be a pilot. He goes, I'm going to go practice flying. And he said, I'll pick you guys up tomorrow. So I said, great. So I'm at dinner and I get a call from TK. I'm out to eat with my wife. And he said, I need you to walk outside of the restaurant. I got to tell you something, but you need to walk outside. So I'm thinking, well, that's odd. And he said, after Brooke hung up from you, he said he went out and he crashed the plane. He said Brooke's dead. And I was just crushed and stunned. And I mean, you know, it was like, you know, this kid's, you know, he's 21 years old. That just doesn't happen. So I get on a flight and I fly up. His funeral was set up. So I go out and I get to Goodland, Kansas was where he was from. And I get there and they take me in to see his mom and the funeral's going to be. And she said, hey, would you sing? And I said, Miss Beringer, I can't do it. I can't. I said, I just can't. So I walked outside and it was like one of those moments that you go, man, every now and then you got to man up. And I walked back in. I said, I'll sing. And Hobie was there. And Hobie had gone out with me. And so we picked a song that Duncan had wrote called I'll Leave the Light On to sing. Well, what I experienced there, Tom Osborne came in and he brought the whole team. And there was a little 5,000 seat arena. That's where they had the funeral. And there were so many people there in a town that probably holds 1,200 people that they had to open the doors and just have it overflow to where people could hear. There was probably 8,000 to 10,000 people there. And it was like a president. It was like JFK had passed. It was so impactful. Tom Osborne spoke. He was so stoic, and then I heard, you know, the assistant coaches, and there was just this such solid faith that all these men had, and so I experienced that. So upon doing that, I get a call from Tom Osborne, and he said, let's put in a scholarship in Brooke's name, a permanent scholarship. He said, if you guys will come in, I think we can raise enough money. I'll have the university match and we'll have a scholarship in Brooke's name forever and ever. Amen. I said, I'm in, absolutely. So I had never sang the Nebraska song for anybody but Brooke live. We decided to put it on the 6 Days on the Road album, and Brooke's number was 18, and after song 12, it goes from 12 to 18. And so the Nebraska song is on that, but I never sang it live and decided I was never going to. Decided the only person that heard me sing this live was the person that meant the most thing in the world too. And I said, I'm never going to sing it. So we get to the concert, and it's in Lincoln, and it's at the university, and it's sold out. And his mom, other than the funeral, I had never met his mom, and his mom came in the dressing room. And she said, I know what you think about the Nebraska song. She said, but I think you ought to sing it. I said, Miss Barrier, I really made a promise to myself. She said, I know that. She said, but I think it would mean something to everybody if you sang it. So again, I didn't think I could do it, but I thought, okay, I've got to man up and do this. So I sing the Nebraska song and only get about 2 lines in. And the crowd is singing it louder than I am.
Wow.
And they helped me finish it. And I looked down, and Tom Osborne, who had never broke at Brooks' funeral, he was solid. He was sobbing. And he walked up on stage and he just hugged me. And he said, thanks. So that's how that song came about. That's what that song means. It still means to me. When we go to Nebraska, we know we're playing that song. We know that. And it means it's that impactful. It's as impactful as the walk is to other people. And we still do that song.
I don't even know how to begin to say thank you for all the time, for the amazing insight and vulnerability and sharing emotions. I feel like the world needs that.
Yeah.
And this has fulfilled me in ways I can't articulate. So thank you for your time, brother, so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, I'm a big fan, man. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why. I just love that they let somebody with a true Southern accent just let him be himself and be a commentator. I watched it all the way up. I discovered you on NASCAR when you used to do NASCAR, and then when I saw you've got the NFL gig, I thought, heck yes. So I'm proud of you, brother. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. I'm blessed beyond words and blessed beyond what I deserve, and I never forsake that. I made a life on passion, and that's never going to stop. And this has just been the joy. It's so much joy for me. Thank you very much. Have an awesome day. Enjoy that workout.
All right.
And I'll tell Shannon that he can't handle that crossover, brother.
I can't handle him posted up either. So
understood.
All right.
Cheers.
Happy
New Year.
Okay. Same to you. Bye.